So I couldn't help but notice that a lot of people are very surprised when they find out that I'm into anime. And that's understandable. I'm the princess party girl. I talk about princess parties, Disney princesses, blah, blah, blah. But I kid you not, I have been watching anime since I was in elementary school. I had a friend in the neighborhood who was older who introduced me to my first anime ever, Kamikaze Kaito-Jan, in those 3-part YouTube videos that you had to watch in order to watch anime back in that day. But it wasn't until I moved out to Florida and started middle school that I started cosplaying, and my first cosplay ever was Alois Trancy from Black Butler 2. And yes, I was that kid who wore her cosplay to school. And to be honest, one of my main motivating factors for joining the Princess Party Company was to get paid to do cosplay. I was like, oh my gosh, I could dress up in costumes provided for me and get paid for it? When? So yeah, I like anime very much. So I'm part of a group for people who work in hotels, and usually we just go in there to post crazy stories, but someone asked, does anyone have any advice on what to do with kids running around the lobby? I've already yelled at them twice, and the responses are, mwah, trip their little asses. Target practice? Just kidding. Ooh, someone posted an image response, how to make your own tranquilizer dart, followed quickly by hang them by their feet down the laundry chute, put Vaseline on the floor, and can you put oil or water on the floor and let them learn the hard way? And then probably my favorite one of all, offer them candy, then shove them in the oven. Oops, wrong group, sorry. Or if you're not feeling like cooking to kids, barefoot, lay some tacks in the hall, or beat them. Yep, I'm working in the right industry. So let's talk about pet policies in hotels. Someone recently commented on one of my videos that they were upset because they had booked through a third party and the third party had told them that the hotel was pet friendly, but when they brought their cat, the hotel said you can't have a cat here. Quick little travel hack, if a hotel says they're pet friendly, 9 times out of 10, they just mean dogs unless explicitly stated otherwise. There are sometimes exceptions to the rules. I was working in a hotel in 2016 that was pet friendly, but usually only allowed dogs, and there was a hurricane coming through and I need to bring my cat. My boss was like, fine. The best thing you could do is call ahead and ask. I have had people turn up to my hotel with geckos and lizards and hamsters and cats, and I'm just like, no. And then they get upset with me and they're like, well, I'm here, I already have a room. You're gonna tell me I can't have a room because I brought a little tiny hamster? And I have to say, yeah, it's policy. You should have tried to sneak it in. Because like that is always an option. You could just try to sneak the animal in, and if you're smart about it, if you're careful, you might even get away with it. But if you don't act surprised when we clap you. If you get caught with the animal in the room, you may get kicked out or fined. If you leave behind a giant animal-related mess, once again, you might get fined and you might be put on a do not sell list. Just do it at your own risk. Oh, and when you leave, take the animal with you. Don't leave it in the trash can. So this is actually a great question. Why do hotels overbook? The guests hate it, the employees hate it, and in a way, you're promising to sell rooms that you don't have. How is that ethical? There's a whole theory around it, and to make the theory more simple to understand, let's give an example. So let's say you have a TV to sell, right? You can have that TV sitting on the shelf for days and days and days, and when it finally sells, you're gonna make just as much money as you would if it is sold on day one. But the thing is, hotels only have one night to sell their inventory, and if that inventory isn't sold, then it's gone. You can't go back in time and resell that room that never sold, so you can't make that revenue for that night that you would have made if you had sold that room. And since many hotels do experience cancellations and no-shows to try and maximize their profit and make sure that they get as many heads in beds as possible, they will oversell. And there are whole programs and formulas and even people dedicated to guessing how much they can oversell on a certain night and not have to walk people at the end of it. So basically, it's about money. What's that one company's tagline? Bags packed, plane booked, hotel not Trivago, please, on behalf of all hotel workers. As someone who's worked in hotels for my whole career, let me give you the inside scoop about these third-party reservation people like Expedia and Trivago and Hotels.com that you may not realize. Number one, pretty much nothing is guaranteed. Your room type isn't guaranteed, your view isn't guaranteed, even if you paid for an upgrade, still not guaranteed, and even your hotel itself isn't guaranteed. Which leads me to point number 2. When hotels inevitably overbook their rooms, and I can make a whole separate video about why hotels overbook, when that happens, third-party reservations are the first to be walked to a different property. In the end, we're going to keep the people who are paying the hotel directly and not going through some middleman, especially if those people are members and have status at the hotel. And fun fact, at some hotel chains, if you have to relocate someone who has really high status at that hotel, sometimes you have to give them cash as an apology for walking them, on top of covering their stay at the other hotel and doing a whole bunch of other things. And the last little fun fact about booking with these third-party companies is that you have made a contract with the third-party company, who then makes a contract with the hotel, and we are unable to break that contract. And what that basically boils down to is that the hotel can't make any changes to your reservation. So if you can't show up, if you want to stay longer, if you want to leave early, we can't do anything for you. You have to call the third party. I cannot tell you how many times I have had someone call me saying that they've had a family emergency and they need to cancel their reservation, and would we please not charge them? And I have to say, it's not up to me. You need to call Expedia and wait for like 4 hours on hold to get a hold of a real person. And this isn't to say that you should never book with third parties, because in the end you could get some great rates that you couldn't get otherwise. But just be aware of the fact that the hotel itself is very limited on the steps that they can take in order to help you with an issue if and when an issue arises. What is it about Wednesdays that's been bringing out all the weirdos? And I'm not talking about the good weirdos that we know and love, I'm talking about the weirdos. Like, I can forgive stuff happening on a Friday and a Saturday because it's the end of the week, people are partying, people are going crazy, you expect it, you know, like you just expect it. But a Wednesday? So I work overnights at a hotel, and when I came into my shift last Wednesday, this poor, sweet angel of a evening shift girl looked at me and said, "Hey Jessica, I just have to let you know that something kind of weird happened today. A guest asked me to show him my feet." And she said, "Yeah, no, he saw that my nails were painted and he wanted to know if my toenails are painted too." And I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "Well, then take off your shoes and show me." And I'm just sitting there like, did he at least slip you a 20? No, but actually she was pretty freaked out. And when she said, "No, I'm not taking off my shoes and showing you my feet," he got all offended and he was like, "Wow, well, you're the first woman that I've asked to show me her feet who's told me no." And I'm like, "Sir, do you ask women to take off their shoes at their workplaces often? How have you not been arrested, my dude?" Oh, but it gets worse. He then proceeds to ask if the employees park in the same place that the guests do. And of course, that's a little sus. So we send out my security to check the parking lot before my girl's supposed to leave. And guess who's there waiting in the parking lot, oh so casually? We decide to just have my security come back in and escort my front desk agent out, make sure that she gets in her car undisturbed and drives away. I told him, make sure she drives away. After that, I didn't see this guy for like another 3 hours. And I'm sure you might already have a mental image of what this guy looks like in your head, but he was in his early 30s, young, reasonably attractive, in a suit. He was a businessman, and he wasn't that intoxicated. Like, he had a couple drinks, but he wasn't like intoxicated. And he comes back in at about 2 a.m. and proceeds to ask me about my shoes. And at this point, I'm being polite, I'm being professional, but I'm not being my usual Disney princess self. But I do take some of that princess training and I steer the conversation. I ask him, "Oh, are you going to this event that's happening at the hotel tomorrow?" And he says, "No." And I say, "Oh, what are you doing tomorrow?" And he says, "Well, I have to be really early to get to this meeting." And I say, "It's already 2 a.m. You should get to bed, huh? You should probably get to bed, it's late." And thankfully, he does get the hint at this point and goes away. But if that conversation had continued and he'd asked me to take off my shoes and show him my feet, I would have lost my status on Team Purity. Because the things that would have come out of my mouth would have not been very pure. So if you're like me and you're a nerdy little Capricorn who loves to make PowerPoint presentations to explain literally everything, throw back to my 3-minute long PowerPoint presentation to explain some TikTok tea. I think I just found my favorite PowerPoint hack ever. Research tip: don't scroll through color palette databases hoping to find the perfect font for your figure. Just copy the sprite of your favorite Pokemon in a PowerPoint, select the eyedropper tool, and I gotta try this. Alright, so I got my sprite of Shiny Sylveon. I got my chart with its ugly colors. Gonna go over here to the paint bucket, color, eyedropper, and then just go grab, ooh, pretty. I love this so much. I'm obsessed. I got Alolan Raichu, I got Mudkip. I'm kind of wondering how long it would take me to do all 800 plus Pokemon. No, that's too much. All right, so you're all checked in. Here are your keys. You're going to be on the 2nd floor. And to get to the elevators, hey, I have a question. Yes, I'll be with you in just a moment, all right? So to get to the elevator, you're going... I said I have a question. Yes, just give me 1 moment as I'm currently assisting this lady right here, okay? Then never mind. So as I was saying, to get to the elevator, just go down the hallway here. I just had a simple question, but no thanks. I'm staying somewhere else.